Thank you for auditing Professor Skiles' Record Review, the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who's still waiting for his damn hair to grow out. I apologize, you gotta look at this for the whole video. So I'm gonna be reviewing the album by Idols, Tangk. Tangk? Tangk? I think it's pronounced Tangk, and they said that it's pronounced that way because that's the sound of a guitar and it's kind of a brutal sound. But I prefer to think that it's because they are trying to make an album that is like a nice cold glass of Tang. You ever had Tang? Maybe you haven't. It's not all over the world. It's actually most popular in Brazil and South America. It's founded in America. And it's, it's just a sugary, sweet drink. And this album, despite the fact that the soundscape of it is fairly dark and serious, is maybe the happiest album I've ever heard. like the album filled with the most relatable joy of any album I've heard. It's funny because I just reviewed the album by Yeet, 2093. And that's cool because that's like this album in the middle of getting sober, and it's kind of dark and hopeful. And I've only reviewed the Idols, whatever, Ultra Mono, and then the last one, and then this one. So I went from sort of the last album before getting sober, and then an album about getting sober, and then now this one. And this is this beautiful thing that I don't do drugs, I barely drink, I'm a very sort of straight edge guy. I've known people who have been addicts, and I've known people who have gotten free of it. And just to see the joy that can come with making that kind of effort, with overcoming such a terrible, terrible terminal disease as addiction, it's just beautiful. This album is filled with love and joy for love, for lovers, for friends, for babies, for themselves. It's just a very, very, very happy album. That is, when I saw the cover, I thought it was the explosion of the Challenger. That's what I thought it looked like. I thought it was a spaceship explosion. And so with the title Tang, which was most famous for being the official drink at NASA and of the astronauts. So when I was a kid and I would drink this, I would think, I'm an astronaut. But let's take this further. What was on the cover of the last album? That really painful album about addiction and growth. It was an astronaut in front of a kind of suburban home, kind of a Clockwork Orange-y, postmodern, futuristic 70s, 60s home, right? So it's sort of like that spaceman who was struggling is now actually in space. Or even better, that spaceman is in the house. He sent his music into space, as we'll discuss in the last song, but he's in the house and he's happy. So I jumped in on the whole British post-punk, whatever, post-Brexit, post-punk stuff that they call it, like in the sort of like second album phase of a lot of groups like Fontaines DC, like Idols, like Shame, so the initial buzz and love of the first album sort of diminished. And so when I came in and listened to these awesome second albums, everyone's like, Sky, you gotta listen to the first album because the first album's much better. But hey, from what I've heard, Idols does not get better than this. And one thing I've noticed in analyzing this British post-punk scene is there's basically two kinds of attitudes which dominate. You have your sort of twee post-punk, which might be more focused on time changes, more fanciful subjects, maybe a little bit more musically, a little bit softer. So I'm thinking sort of like, Black Country New Road or Tapir, who I just reviewed. And then you have the sort of the For the Lads, the kind of harder edge, the Viagra Boys, the Idols. What's making me happy is I'm really seeing a kind of convergence where this is kind of going away. Like this album is for the twee lads, it's not at all in that same kind of toughness. And the lyrics are not brutal, they're sweet. They're just straightforward. He's not singing about unicorns and reindeers, but he is singing about love and of growing up, and it's really great. And this album has a thesis statement. How great is it for me when an album has a thesis statement? Love is the thing. I'll discuss that more throughout the video. You'll see I have the Smiths behind me because this album is very, very obsessed with the king. So there's a king of England now. So his name was Charles before. Did they change his name to George? I don't know. I have an ancestor. His name was Michael Jackson, not related to the singer. He fought at Bunker Hill. We fought really hard to get rid of the monarchy in this country, and I'm not that proud of that much stuff in America, but I am proud of George Washington saying no kings, okay? So I don't pay attention to the royalty. I don't know. I think he's King Charles now, but that's a spaniel. Point is, the Queen actually died. So in '86, the Smiths made an album called The Queen is Dead, and who knows, maybe Marcy likes the monarchy now, who knows with him anymore. But this album is really concerned with the themes of the king and the lack of importance of the king. And the king represents a lot, right? The king doesn't just represent the actual person, Charles whatever his last name is. Do the royalty have last names? Was the queen like Elizabeth like Smith? Right? I haven't even thought of that. Is it Windsor? Is it Charles Windsor? Okay, you can tell me, all you royal watchers, in the comments. But it's important because it shows that they wrote this album when they had all the hype for King Charles, King George, whatever his name is, coming to power, and all the pomp and the majesty, and everyone puts all this attention into this. But in reality, none of that matters. What really and it's great because he's saying, I'm talking about the lead singer here. I believe the last name is Talbot. Talbot is saying it's not like, down with the Queen, down with the King, more social services for the people, right? Which is implied, but not directly stated. It's more just like, why are you thinking about that? This doesn't matter. No God, no king, love is the thing. What actually matters in life is not some magical man in the sky who will reward you for a life of misery, nor is it some magical man in a castle who will cause you misery and project some sort of colonial ideal of your own existence based on the happenstance of your birth. It's really that love is what matters. This album could be called All You Need Is Love, bruv. I mean, it really could be. I just came up with that right now. I'm a little too proud of it. I'm going to take another hit off my Tangk right now. All you need is love, bruv, okay? If you're watching Idols, that's my gift to you, okay? Merch, it's all yours. It's all yours. So in a way, this album, okay, this is like maybe the highest compliment I can give it. If Christopher Hitchens was a rock album, it would be Tangk by Idols. Okay. Now musically, it's great because it's a little bit more adventurous. When I talk about sort of modern rock music, there's a kind of commercialized, for the lads style of rock, which I associate with like Home Depot commercials or bourbon commercials, kind of a like, yeah, with more payload towing than any other vehicle in its class. They were never fully in that realm, but they were closer to that realm than other groups in this sort of quasi-non-genre. Now, I think this is helped by the fact that they have Greenwich's own. Not Greenwich is in Greenwich time, Greenwich is in Greenwich, Connecticut, the most miserable place in America. Truly miserable, filled with money and misery. I've been there. I wouldn't want to grow up there. Tough. Emotionally tough place to be. Kenny Beats, so who's like a great rap producer. You know, he just did all the mixing for Rap Ferreira on his great album. You know, like, I don't know, what the hell's Kenny Beats up to, man? That guy's living well, you know? Talk about a life of an artist. You get to make an album with Rap Ferreira, and then you get to go off and make an album with Idols, and then everything that was on that last album, that really wonderful album, gets one more little layer of complication. Nigel Godrich, primarily known as the producer of Radiohead, and most of the Radiohead solo productions, but not The Smile. So, because Nigel Godrich did not produce the most recent Smile, right? That was produced by the same guy who did the Marika Hackman album. Hey, how come none of you have watched my Marika Hackman review? Huh? Everyone, oh, Sky, you're just going for clicks. That album is great, and none of y'all watched it. Go watch it. It's good. So because he's free to work with someone else, he's working here with Idols. And it's great because you really hear it. Like, you really hear. It's usually in like very subtle distortion here and there. Maybe the way that an instrumental section will build. I'll point out the times where I hear it. It's actually oddly similar to JPEG Mafia's participation in the new Kanye album. I mean, it's not nearly as controversial, but that same way of like, There is a tangible aspect of, oh, he added drums, or oh, he added a layer of distortion, or oh, he made it sound kind of computery and weird like Nigel Godrich does. But there's also just a sort of general glaze, a sort of feeling that a Nigel Godrich production has that it turns out can be transmitted to people other than Johnny Greenwood and Tom York. Which in my mind, so I'm going to buy both these albums. I'm just going to say that right now. Hopefully later in the weekend. It's my daughter's week off for winter break, and she loves going to Record Archive in Rochester, New York. They're not a sponsor, but I like them that much. I say their name whenever I can. I'm hopefully going to buy the Smile album and the Idols album. And when I do, maybe I'll do a little sketch, you know? like you know when you're with your new girlfriend and you meet your ex who's with her new boyfriend, and you're all happy, all four of you are happy, none of you are sad, none of you regret it, everything happened as it was supposed to happen, and you meet at the party and you're like, oh, hey, how's it going? Oh, cool. Yeah, nice to meet you, Charles. It's cool. That's cool. Yeah, no, yeah, I'm Sky. Yeah, that's Sky. No, there's not another one. So, anyways, cool. What do you do? Oh, King of England. Cool. Anyways, yeah, it's great to see you're doing well. I love that you're doing well. You love that I'm doing well, but then part of you is still competitive. Part of you is like, man, that new guy's hairline. I mean, come on. You know, like you can't help it. Okay. Who am I to say about hairline? Someone called me David Guetta in a video recently in the comments section. You shouldn't laugh that hard when someone makes fun of you that well. God damn, David Guetta. Whew. I am trying to teach myself more because looking back at my old videos, I sort of made more of a joke about the fact that I don't really understand Great Britain. I don't understand its accents, its regions, its areas. So I'm trying to get more invested. So obviously music is the best way. So we're talking about Bristol, which I want to mockingly pronounce Bristol, but as we will see, that's the opposite of what you should do. So that's where Tricky and Portishead are from. So just to help orient you, if you're an American like me, it's in the sort of southern, very western part of the country, as opposed to London, which is in the southern, very eastern part of the country, okay? And so I was thinking, love is the thing. That's the thing they keep repeating. What does this mean, thing? I know it means thing. It's replacing love as the thing. Is this a typical Bristol accent, you say? As you see a rabbit jumping out of a hole, and then you say, 1 second, I'm going to go investigate that hole. An hour later, you've been watching BBC's special on regional accents in England from 1976 and just having the most fun of your life. It's really fun. You could spend a lot worse hours than that. It turns out, actually, no. Thing is not a Bristolian accent. In Bristol, they are very rhotic, which means they pronounce all of their R's, a lot of rhoticity. And that's why in America we pronounce all of our R's, because most of the English immigrants to America came from the Bristol area. I believe, including mine. I think Michael Jackson, the one who helped to fight the king, I think his ancestors are from Bristol. They also do a lot of the glottal stop. So if you say a word like community, it becomes okay, that kind of thing that you hear. But the most fascinating thing, and this is the thing that they don't do, but I'm just telling you because I learned something about Bristol. I want to share it with you. There is a Bristol accent that has gone away largely because of TV and time, but it's adding an L at the end of words that end in a vowel and don't have an L. So in this BBC documentary, they hold up a sign that says this, okay? It says, Eva Turner, the prima donna of the Carl Rosa Opera Company. Okay? And this is how every single person they interview on the streets of Bristol says it. Evil Turner, the prima donna of the Carl Rosa Opera Company. Interesting, right? They add L's. Who am I to make fun of? In Boston, we add R's. My aunt's name was Martha, and my father called her Mather. She took the R and put it in the wrong place. which all goes back to thing. Love is the thing. That's called TH fronting, replacing TH with F. It's actually generally considered to be a London thing, a Southeast England thing, and in particular, it's associated with the lower classes, which I think is on purpose because the whole theme of this album is no God, no king. Love is the thing. Saying thing is a class indicator of being lower class and not being ashamed of it and not trying to cover it up and not trying to aspire to being rich. Implied in love is the thing is also saying no worship of money, no shame in class. That's what's implied in love is the thing. Also, apparently, they don't have a soccer team in Bristol. I mean, not in the Premier League. Bristol City is in the Championship. So I don't know. That's the main way I'm trying to learn about England is through soccer. But that, what the hell? Like all of Western England has like no teams. What's the deal? I'll have to see if there's an HITC7's video about that. Final note before getting to the album, it's on Partisan Records, which, you know, so I talk about Dead Air in America as having some of the best and most interesting young groups that's really helping to capture a lot of the zeitgeist of young America, like a certain kind of online, gender-sensitive young America. And Partisan Records is just absolutely on fire. I mean, they have Geese, one of the best albums here last year, Fontaine's DC, PJ Harvey, Idols. I mean, it's Murderer's Row over there. So it's worth paying attention and praising record companies when they aren't sucky demons, right? Okay, so if you like this so far, smash the like bucket, subscribe. If you want to put AVAA anywhere in your comment, I will always give it a heart. That's the little thing that I do to help communication there. I will say this is a weird album for me because I listened to it the least. And I listened to it the most, but recorded the fewest notes for it. You see, I normally would have recorded this yesterday in my office, but I did an interview with Foreign Man in a Foreign Land. I'm going to be doing a video on it. You know, he's going to be featuring me in a video. I'm very excited, along with Volksgeist and Anthony Fantano and me. Yeah, that makes sense. You know, and me, whatever, it's fine. I'll take it. So I've listened to this album a ton, but I haven't actually had like the usual very dedicated listening session. I've just been listening to it on nonstop, all over the place. My daughter loves this album. We're walking all over the house. We're driving in the car. I'm taking care of my baby. I'm running over here. I'm going over there. I'm doing all these things. So it's interesting. My notes will be a little bit different. And when you watch this, I'm going to be releasing this at the exact time that my team, Olympique de Marseille, is going to be playing in the Europa League. They're probably going to be eliminated because they suck this year. So if you're watching the live stream, what's up? Put AVAA in the comments, not in the live stream. That doesn't help me when you put it in the live stream. But say hey and ask me anything because I try to do live streams at every premiere of every single one of my videos if I can. Now here's the thing about this album. Whole thing is definitely at a minimum A tier. But there's 3 songs that are absolutely S tier. That are just, actually no, there's 4 songs that are cut above. But 3 of those songs are together. So let's get through the first 2 songs, which are simply A-tier, amazing songs, to get to those tracks 3, 4, and 5, each one of them better than the last. Well, okay, just unbelievably good. Okay, so Idea 01 on Apple Music, Talbot, I believe it's Joe, talked a lot about this album. I'm going to be including some of those interview points here because they're interesting. He said this is the first track they made in Nigel Godrich's studio, and you can hear it. Nice pulsing slow drum with these pianos. The voice comes in and he lets you know, hey, I'm not going to be a snarling, not at all. Like, I'm going to be a singer. I'm going to be cool. There's the distortion on the bass sound. I hear that as being Nigel Godrich. Maybe I give him too much credit. Maybe that was Kenny Beats. Maybe it's the bassist. But then we have these beautiful lyrics, which are apparently about a friend of his who died. Upside down, house to a broken home, sisters waving arms, not even grown. There's a rag in a bucket, and your father couldn't pay his loans or something. Your uncle ran 10 streets just to snatch his phone or something. Your mother swang like your life depended. It did. These are things that are lost in the fire or something. These are things that are lost in the fire. This feels like we're still in that last album. We're still the spaceman attached to that building, and then we're going to be moving out of that zone, transitioning from this very sort of sad place into The Joy of Gift Horses, which is entirely about his daughter. So, am I a softie? Hell yeah, I'm a softie. You know? You can tell I'm a softie. But I have two daughters. One's 16, doing a practice SAT as we speak, and the other is 16 months. Okay, she's taking a nap as we speak. And we need more men talking about being fathers. We just need more of it. Just why not? I mean, how many singers, rappers, rock stars, country stars, how many are fathers? Like many of them. And how many of them include that in? Why is it only comedians? Okay, side rant. This is not on my notes. Comedians, the second they have a baby, all of their material changes to be about being a father, and that's great. But what about music, huh? How come none of you are as proud or as strong of a father as Talbot? Maybe because you're still all on drugs. I don't know. My baby, she's so strong. She talks me straight when I'm doing wrong, asks us to sing your Empire songs. She laughs, tells you where I'm from. My baby, she's so great. I wake up grateful every day. My baby is beautiful. All is love, and love is all. Fuck the king. He ain't the king. She's the king. I don't know this man, but I can tell you that I feel love. I feel love for this man because the way that he expresses that is exactly how I feel. When I walk in, about 4 times a week I wake up with our baby. The other 3 times my wife wakes up with her. I walk in the room, she looks up at me and says, "Mama." I say, "No, I'm Poppy." "Mama." It's cool, I'm Poppy. "Mama?" "No, I'm Poppy." And then I change her diaper and I get her ready for the day and I go downstairs and we play with Grover and we play with Chewbacca. We have all that fun. Like that moment, he's describing this in just like the most badass way. And I didn't even say the coolest thing I had, right? He ain't the king. I had that whole thing about the Smiths. In a way, this album is like the opposite of the Smiths. So the Smiths have happy music and then really sad lyrics. This has kind of edgy, angry music with really happy lyrics. It's awesome. Then, okay, now we're in the sweet spot. These 3 songs. The first track, Pop, Pop, Pop. Okay? First track is Pop, Pop, Pop. They've just done it. Oh my God. Like, this ridiculously memorable, catchy drum line with these droning sounds that come on the one of the drum line, and distortion and the hook. And it's exactly like what Radiohead would do, but it doesn't sound like Radiohead. It sounds like it's produced by the same guy who produced Idiotech, but it does not sound like Idiotech. Does that make sense to you? That this can be so goddamn good and so redolent of Radiohead without really reminding you of Radiohead, except for in its excellence and in some of its production decisions, Just really cool, distorted sounds. And then these lyrics. Freudian Freud. It's a term. He didn't invent it. He is a cool enough guy. I don't know this guy. Is he famously a jerk? Am I going to regret saying this? Has he said like a bunch of like crazy, terrible crap? I hope not. Because I just love this guy more and more. He doesn't even take credit for this. He read some thread on some page somewhere that said, these are words that should exist but don't. And we live in a time of Schadenfreude, which is the German term for love of seeing other people's misery. Ha ha ha. Look at you go. Look at you squirm, you little pig. Right? We love Schadenfreude, and it speaks poorly of us as human beings. So Freudenfreud is the word that somebody on the internet made up and that he is employing to be joy of joy. You feel joyful because someone else is happy. And this album is Freudenfreud. I am happy because this stranger from Bristol is happy. That makes me happy. Joy on joy, cheerleader, happy boy, strong like bull, vulnerable, keep my people up. The strength of vulnerability, that's the thing you learn as you get older, is that strength is weakness. Okay, vulnerability is strength. That's where your actual strength comes from, is knowing where you're weak, knowing where you're vulnerable. Otherwise, you just become one of those brittle men who breaks in the wind, No God, no king, love is the thing. Gets louder and louder, and these distorted wailing sounds in the background and some stutters. And is that a drum machine or is it not? There's just one of these. Do you know? Did you hear it? There's just one of those. All these layers and these builds, and it's kind of EDM and it's kind of not. Again, it makes total sense that this is Nigel Godrich. It feels like you need somebody of that level of production to get this out. And I'm not saying anything bad about the guitarist. Matt Broom, I want to say. Matt Brown? Matt something. And Kenny Beats. But come on. One of y'all produced In Rainbows, okay? What are you gonna do? The best rock album of the past 30 years, one of you produced that one. I might even have to go back further than 30 years. And it keeps going, goes right into Roy. It leads directly, saying love is the thing, leads directly into Roy. This rolling bass tom, and then playing the rim on the snare, and this great detuned bass that's just mad. But it's not falling apart. I'm like kind of rocking and bobbing my head. Again, these drum lines are catchy. And it develops in one of the absolute craziest possible ways it could. In the middle of absolute nowheresville, they come up, I have to not hit my microphone here. They come up with this like intentionally ratty sounding guitar. I don't have the right chords, but it's like that. It's like that kind of, like coming out over these toms and these sounds and this old kind of like 50s style arpeggiated guitar chord. And just sounds so like janky and weird, but perfect. It's unbelievable. It's such an awesome trick. It's such an awesome decision. I've never heard anything like it. And then the bad guitar cuts out, and then we get to this chorus where we're replacing that guitar with these shaky synths. And then the lyric, the guy's just singing, baby, baby, baby. And then it cuts back into the first part. I will say, when he's singing, he sings with the guitar bits, like, I'm never gonna die. I thought he was gonna say, I'm never gonna dance again. But that's not the real thing. He goes, ooh, at a certain point and sings, and it was driving me crazy. I'm like, who is that like? Is that Maroon 5? Who is that? And I talked to my daughter, Goat. And I'm like, Goat. What's that song that's like, ooh, ooh, she's a rebel and a rock star, do-do-do. She's like, I don't know. And she's like, oh, wait, you mean Portugal the Man? Ooh, I'm a rebel just for kicks now. So I just ruined the song for you. You listen to this right next to Rebel for Kicks Now, or whatever the song is, Feel It Still by Portugal the Man, and you'll hear it. Apparently Portugal the Man follows me on Instagram. I've never actually like listened to a Portugal the Man album. I hope they're good. I do not have enough Tangk in my life. It's good. And it's just beautiful. And the whole lyrics apparently are about like this guy who's in love. It's about his partner. And it's great, right? Because he calls his partner Roy. That's not her name. I assume it's her, not he. Yeah, I think it's a she. And it's all about like wakes up in the morning and feels bad about trying to push it away. And he's forgiven. And as he said, rejoicing ensues. But Roy means what? What does Roy mean? You over there? Roy? It's the French word for king. Roi. That's why Leroy is my favorite name. My acoustic guitar is named Leroy. Le Roi, right? Royal. That's where it comes from. So not only is his baby king, but his love is king. Because what is king? Love is king. Jesus, it sounds like a bad Lenny Kravitz song. Let's see if I can write like a bad Lenny Kravitz song called Love is King. Ah! Love is king! All right, I really regret starting that joke. I regret having the guitar right here. And, you know, all these just beautiful, ooh, take the posers, the narcs, the fakes, and the feds. It's just beautiful. And this whole chorus, baby, 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 I'm a smart man, but I'm dumb for you. This album is all focused on deprioritizing what we think matters that doesn't. We think religion matters, it doesn't. We think monarchs matter and leaders matter, they don't. We think intelligence and reason matters, it doesn't. What matters is love. It turns out, and this is true, love is the thing. And then we get to a gospel. There's this beautiful 3-set of songs. The gentle, frail piano and this sweet singing of this little waltz. And his voice is so filled with frailty and not bravado, that strength that comes from vulnerability. And there's even a little industrial grinding sound in the back with this plodding piano underneath. It's got to be Nigel, right? It's got to be Nigel. It's like a breakup song and it's fine. No, it's not fine. It's divine. I just don't have more notes about it because I've listened to this album more than I've thought about it, which, thinking about the nature of this album, I think I did it right. Who the hell needs me to tell you it's a great album? It's a great album. Then we get to the track Dancer with LCD Sound System. Of all the groups that I missed in my mid-20s music death, so if you haven't been following along, in between the years like 2002 and 2018, I stopped paying attention to new music. I just don't know anything about LCD Sound System. I know that one song, Daft Punk's playing in my house, and that's it. So I know they're great. I'm sure I'm missing out. Tell me in the comments what I'm missing out on. But he tells the whole story. Talbot tells the whole story, like how they made this song together, just how loving and kind they were, and just about like how well they worked together. And the whole song actually reminds me of that one LCD Sound System. I know this kind of like great punishing bass and chugging drum line, and it's all about like this, all about dancing. And this is what Talbot said here. My mom always danced, even in her most ill days. She passed away in 2017. She would always get up and dance and enjoy herself. I dance with my daughter every day that I have her. I think that that's magic and important. That's it, right there. You know, when I think about my parents, who've both passed, my parents would always dance. They would go to like even my concerts for my band, which they didn't like. And even though I was embarrassed, that's how my dad danced. Like that. Like they always danced. It's beautiful. And I dance all the time with my daughters. I mean, and my son for that matter, but my daughters as well, you know. Sound and Vision, that's the song right there. Right there. You know how you're supposed to dance with your daughter at her wedding? Like that song has been in on a tablet since like 2008. 2010, whatever. Since my daughter was like 3 years old, 4 years old, we've been dancing that song together. Blue, blue, electric blue. And the whole song, as he says, is about the truest form of communion that happens when you dance with people you care about. Do you understand why this is the happiest album in the world? Okay, there's one song about getting arrested. There's a couple songs about a breakup. But beyond that, it's like, gee, golly, I love my daughter. I love my wife. Soon, I love my friends. And here, dancing is really fun. And it is. And the connection that you have. And what's funny is they keep saying cheek to cheek. Now, it's very unlikely that any of you are out there who can help me. But there's a band, a rock band, called the Mekons, okay? They're from Leeds and from Wales, which I think Bristol is in between those two places. Anyways. And they have a song that they played at the end of one of their shows at the Paradise in Boston. And it's like this kind of like fun, dancey song. And I think it's like belly to belly and back to back, but I looked up that song and it didn't sound the same. It's like kind of like a sing-along song. And I remember going with Brad and Keith, the two other members of my band, and two of my closest friends. And we're dudes, you know, we're dudes. And we're sitting there and there's this song that's playing. And I just remember my friend Keith just losing it, just dancing so hard. And then I danced harder too. And it was this beautiful moment. Like the man said, it was communion. Why don't we have more songs about this kind of dancing? Why is all the dancing like, you're dancing so hot, you're sweating so much? Oh, why is it that like every dancing song has to be about fucking, huh? How come it's always got to end there? Why can't it just end with this kind of sense of communion and love? Can I be your friend, Talbot? Is it Joe? Can I be your friend? Joel? Wait, is that where the name Joel came from? Was it just people named Joe in Bristol? Okay. And then we get another great track. Again, maybe the best track on the album, hard to tell. There's just so many great ones. It's called Grace. And what he says was, this is what happens when Nigel Godrich gets his hands on your Afrobeat stuff. This ratty double hi-hat with these sounds and this almost like New Order style bass. And then it gets super grindy and industrial. And then it ends with an imitation of the end of A Day in the Life by the Beatles. You know, the great crescendo, and then the piano, dong. But they sort of peel back on it because you sort of get the sense they're a little bit embarrassed to do it. I don't know. Next track is called Hall & Oates. So I read this, and before I knew what the album was about, I just assumed it'd be some kind of cynical take on this bullshit music. Bullshit Hall & Oates. But we're back. We're back into a little bit of an older style. So we have tons of like bars that keep my daughter out of places she's not supposed to go, like little gates. And I put the song on once. And she's like a little chimp. She 16 months old. She had her hands on the bar, and when this song came on, she just was rocking and rolling to this one. You know, this is just a little, actually reminds me of the Hives even. It's sort of that level of just rocky, rocky, rock, rock. I do love, there's a little sweet bit with just the drums and this voice with echoes. It reminds me strongly of like Jim Morrison when he's at his most vulnerable, and a little bit too, because it gets almost like a Gregorian chant or something. Reminds me a little bit of one song by the Yugoslavian group Idoli. But again, who here watching this knows the chanty song by Idoli? Tell me in the comments, okay? But what's this song about? Is it a bitter song about how bad? Oh, here she comes. Watch out, friend, she'll chew you up. Is it about that? No. It's a happy song about loving friends. It's about making friends. It's about falling in love with another man as your friend. The giddy excitement of making a new male friend when you're a dude. It's like that movie I Love You, Man that came out like a few years ago, probably a decade ago, that was pretty funny and actually kind of interesting, but in a song. It feels like Hall & Oates is playing in my heart. I loved my man from the very start. He turned forgiveness into our art. You'll never turn us apart. So what song is it? It's that song, you know. What you got? Dun, 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 dun. Like a candle to a flame. Ho, ho. I said you make my dreams come true. Do, 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 do. Right? Can you see Hall & Oates with their silly hair playing and laughing to each other? Don't you know that that song is to them? Don't you know that when they sing that song, that they're singing to each other? So what does this album give us that masculinity desperately needs? Appreciation as a father, appreciation as a friend. You know, it's like the least toxically masculine album. It's super masculine, but not toxic at all. Ooh, I just pissed off some people when I said that. I can't ever use those words in a video without someone calling me a virtue signaling. If I ever signal any virtues, it's because they're virtues I possess. So, woo! Check out my virtues, everybody. Like, I'm a virtue haver. I guess you could say that. I don't like actively hide my virtues. Next track is called Jungle. Sort of like he said he was trying to make a jungle song, and so I thought that'd be like a British style jungle song, but it sounds to me more like George of the Jungle style. Like the drums are sort of like, I want candy. There's this great guitar sound, this great reverb, shuffle, and his voice is so clear and beautiful over. This is the one about getting arrested. Okay. And then we get to Gratitude, another absolute so grace and gratitude, all these important words, you know. And grace ended with the idea of love is a thing, and this comes back here. And this song has all this insane down tuning of the bass. Like the bass is just getting manhandled. The guitar is like finding its way and like struggling to find it. And the funny thing is, when I listen to this song, I just hear so much like conflict and just difficulty. Okay, so the singing's nice. It's kind of even Julian Casablancas-y. But then when I read what Talbot said about this song, it totally comes through. It was a real struggle. Bowen, that's the guitar player. What did I say? Baum. Bowen was really obsessed about doing interesting counts with the beats. I just wanted to make people dance and create infectious beats. We were coming from very different angles, but we loved the song that Bowen had made. I was like, I get it. Bowen, this is insane. I love it, but I can't get it. We hung on to it for ages. Then Nigel really helped us out. He created spaces and bits here and there by turning things down and moving everything slightly. Then Kenny helped me out and got rid of the stupid counts, I think, and helped me write on a 4/4 beat. And then they changed it back. I come in weird places. Everyone chipped in because everyone believed in the song. Not only is this album about friendship and love, it's about how a band should work. You should disagree with each other. You should hold on to your positions. You should allow outside people to come in and help you see what it is. And you should arrive at some kind of compromise that makes something great. This is better than if Bowen had an album and Talbot had an album. He's kind of a crooner on this one. I don't know. I just like, the way he sings this, hold my hand, like the way he sings these lines, like, hold my hands up and thank you, gratitude, hold my hands up. This is not Tom York style or ironic at all. I think he's really expressing gratitude, same way he was really talking about grace. And there's full instrumental breaks that are just very Radioheady in the production, not in the way they sound, but in the production, like this. It's like somehow very drony and loud, but also very clear, and that kind of bookends that nice little bit about raising up your hands. And then the album ends with Monolith. Hey, what's going on? Okay? What do I do? What is my job? Well, my job is I'm a French professor. This is just a hobby I picked up in the lobby. What is my job as a music cricket? My job as a music cricket is to try to figure out what's happening with music. I don't know why I said that, like Tucker Carlson. So I usually have a picture of Noah's Ark back here because Noah's Ark is a theme that pops up all over music. I think it has to do with fears of global warming and water world, the impending water world. It's science fact, people. But then there's this whole other thing where there's all these bands that keep singing about monoliths. King K. Rool or King Cruel, Space Heavy, Squid, oh Monolith. And now this, Monolith. And when you hear him talk about it, he's talking about monoliths that get sent into space. He's actually fascinated, he says, by the fact there's a Wim Wenders movie produced by Scorsese about the music that was sent into space, including Blind Willie Johnson's song, Dark Was the Night, Cold Was the Ground, and that he was fascinated with that. And so this idea, the idea, I think, I'm working through it here, okay? I think the idea is this. How silly do I look with my eyes closed? I can't ever see how I look with my eyes closed. I do hate watching videos of myself because these wrinkles, they just keep coming, but it's okay. Life is better than death. Old age is part of life. So what I think is happening is the monolith represents in Kubrick's movie sort of the forces of technology and forces of growth and sort of a kind of corrupting society that also allows things to build and start. So it's sort of like a godlike society starter. So in this song, the idea of the monolith is instead of it being some kind of obelisk that arrives, it's Blind Willie Johnson or this song that goes out and that becomes like the basis of everything. It's bright in here. So I think that's it. I mean, he even said that he's inspired by the 4 or 5 tones that are repeated and create a monolithic motif. I assume he's talking about also Spoke Zarathustra by Richard Strauss, bam, 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 bum, 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 bum. But here there's just 4 notes, some high singing. I found myself, my own king, still coming back. He said he's trying to sing like Blind Willie Johnson, and he doesn't, hey. As much as I love this man, he's not Blind Willie Johnson, but you cannot be a black blues singer from the Deep South in last century unless you are a black blues singer from the Deep South in last century. No matter how hard you try, Robert Plant. But still, I think he actually does a very good job of communicating communicating the feeling and the power of the blues. He's not trying to sound like a blues singer. He's not like, well, my hound dog done left me, right? He's not trying to do that. He is singing like a blues singer, but it's not imitation. It's sort of like the way this album is sort of like Radiohead, but it's not an imitation. It's just in this this beautiful production glaze that comes from Nigel Godrich. And then 2 things happened to me when I got to the end of this album. There was the Tidal experience. So I have 2 streaming services I use. One is Tidal. I just prefer it. Ever since Life of Pablo, I've listened to it. And I have that on repeat. So it just starts with the album over again. And this outro leads perfectly into the intro. Idea 1 leads perfectly into this. It's like a nice loop. It works really well. But sometimes my daughter, oh, wait a minute. I forgot the thing that she pointed out. Okay, let me get that story. But she pointed out, so we were listening to Dancer, okay? We were listening to Dancer, and she goes, I need you to immediately look up this song by, I need you to immediately look up this song by Dean Martin. Everybody Loves Somebody. I'm like, no, I'm busy, goat. It's like, no, like, I'm taking notes. I don't have time to do that. No, Dad, look up Everybody Loves Somebody by Dean Martin. I look it up, and son of a dig dug, that's where the sample comes from. Is it nature or nurture? How did my daughter pull that out? How did a 16-year-old girl pick out a Dean Martin sample on an Idols album? I mean, is this nepotism? Anyways, I forgot to mention that. Proud Poppy. Jesus. How did she know that? How does a 16-year-old girl know a Dean Martin song? I don't know a Dean Martin song. Anyways, so that's one way I listen to it. But when Goat is listening to Tidal, I can't listen to it at the same time, right? Because too many people on the same account. So then I use my YouTube Premium. If you watch more than like 3 hours of YouTube a week and you don't have YouTube Premium, you seriously do not know how to spend money. It is the best way to being able to listen to this, listen to YouTube without watching it, being able to never have ads, knowing that you are giving creators way more money than they would normally get. I'm not sponsored by YouTube Premium, but I very much believe in that product, and that gives you free access to YouTube Music, but they use the goddamn algorithm. So what came on right after this? Read the Room by The Smile. I was right back again. I was right back again with that little party scene of the exes meeting each other with their new partners. Ooh, that was rough. That was rough. Because, you know, they're not in competition. But Read the Room's a really good song. It's fun, right? Okay. Well, tell me in the comments, what do you think of this album? Have you ever drank Tangk? It's far superior to Sunny D, which has a better reputation. These are my Patreons. They give me the money that's going to allow me to go to Record Archive and buy The Smile. And got a new one there. Was it Money Buckets? Yeah. Oh, and Vukiewicz is actually supposed to be over here. He upped his thing, but I keep forgetting to put him on there. So he just gets shout outs each time. So that's pretty good. Pretty good deal. Vuk. That means wolf in Serbo-Croatian. All right. Well then, 47 minutes in, which means I'm going to be posting this video at 3 when the Marseille game starts. So the first half will be over. Will we be up? Will we be down? You can tell me in the comments. All right. Until next time, there's the camera.